Hello everybody and welcome to the final third, and today we're going to be doing a bit of a different video because, as we know, it's currently the international break, and we'll be talking about the Premier League's underperformers and overperformers. We mix it up. We're going to be picking three teams from each. We'll be avoiding the top six sides today because we always talk about the top six because obviously they're the major talking points in the Premier League. So we'll be looking at some of the other sides today. But before we get started with the video, Al, do you want to reveal the player from the last video?
Yes, the player from the last video was Fernando Torres, also known as El Nino to the fans of Liverpool.
Yeah, unbelievable player. Well, bro, people said he cooked Vidic. Nah, mate. Nah, it's in their dreams, you know what I mean? But, yeah. We'll move on to the underperformers because we're going to do a mix. So we're going to start off with the overperformers first, then the underperformers. So we'll do it like back and forth, if that makes sense. So it just keeps it a bit interesting during the video. So the first overperformer we're going to be talking about is Sunderland. Obviously promoted side, coming into the league after, I don't even know, was it 8 years out of the Premier League? I think it's 8 because they got relegated in 2017. They got relegated in 2017.
I'm pretty sure you're right.
Yeah, 8 years out of the Premier League. To come back with a bang. They spent well, you know. I guess we'll start with Al and then we'll keep it as a discussion this time round. We don't have to do it in order, you know.
Yeah. 100%. Look, I think we were all really impressed with the transfer window that they had, for a promoted side especially. And to be fair, they brought in some good players. Xhaka, that's some really good experience, especially Prem experience. It's not like they've just brought in a senior player. They brought in a senior player from, a Prem club that's, he done quite well for, like in Arsenal. And obviously he was. I think he was their captain for a while, and I think is he the captain now at Sunderland as well?
Yes.
I'm not exactly. So you know what I mean. I think he's leading them really well at the moment. They got some good players in the defence, like Mukiel as well, that they brought in from PSG. And I forgot the other names of the other the other defenders, but they're performing really well for Sunderland, to be fair, at the moment. And yeah, they're just, like we say, they're overperforming for probably what a lot of people thought they would do so far. And, they start off the season with a bang, unfortunately, against my team, with a 3-0 win on the first day. But that really set the standard for them, I guess. They've managed to get some good wins against some good teams, to be fair to them. And, long may it continue for them. They're a good team, and we always want to see... we've had a pattern over the years with promoted sides just getting relegated straight away. So, it would be nice to see one of these teams stay up. And personally, I think they've got the best chance out of all three promoted teams. But yeah. What about you, Hassan? What do you think about their season so far?
I agree. I think they've overperformed for what they are as a club. Like, I won't say they are a small club. Obviously, they're newly promoted side, so it's going to be a bit tough for them to do well in the league with everyone else who's been in the league. And I think probably the best signing this season for them is probably Xhaka. Obviously, as Ali's mentioned, he brings that experience. He brings that winning mentality from when he won the league in for Bayer Leverkusen. So that's a very important experience that any team would want to have. And I think he's played really well since the start of the season. I think every game he's been pivotal in all the results, really. So I think that is possibly the one player that they rely on the most. I mean, he is the captain for a reason. But yeah, he's been great for them. Mukiele's been good as well.
Can I say one player who I think they rely on probably more than
the
Xhaka?
Goalie as well.
It's the goalie, Robin Roofs. Yeah, he's great, isn't he?
Yeah. He made a lot of good saves. A few games. I think 2 games in a row he had man of the match performances. So, he's made a lot of good saves and probably kept them in, a few of the wins that they had. So, that's one player definitely who's, he's definitely like clutched up for them. Obviously they have likes of Masuaku as well. He's played for West Ham as well at some point. So he brings that Prem experience as well. Obviously not the best player ever, but I think for a club like Sunderland that is very important. For a player who's played in the Prem multiple seasons, that's very important for them to have. And I think they're a club that with a good mentality, play decent style football as well. So I think they're on the up, and hopefully they do stay like that. Because for a team that's newly promoted, you do wish them the best. You don't want them to just get demoted straight away, because it's been kind of a theme going on of newly promoted sides. They're just not good enough to stay in the league, and you hope for a club like West Ham. I mean, not West Ham, for Sunderland, they do stay in the league. Yeah, that's what I got to say about them. What about you, Khalas? What do you think?
I think they're doing fantastic. For a club who's just come up from the Championship to come in and have the impact they're having, beating the teams they have. To be fair, they played their first big top six side that was Man United, and obviously we all know that Man United aren't really doing well this season. They were very unconvincing in the way they played. They weren't good that game. I'm not saying that's gonna be anything, but they haven't played the likes of Chelsea. They haven't played the likes of Arsenal. They haven't played the likes of obviously City, Liverpool, Tottenham. But from the teams they have played, they've looked great and they've really given a fight. I feel like at home that's the bread and butter for them. They're unbelievable at home because, like I said this multiple times, that they have a brilliant fan base and a brilliant atmosphere at the home ground. So I feel like that carries teams, over the line, especially with the likes of Sunderland. You can see that they're getting results and great results at home. So yeah, no, I think they're fantastic, and I think they're doing very, very well, and definitely pushing above their weight. So yeah, Sunderland are definitely you could probably say they're the top overperformer, technically, because obviously they just come up from the league and they're doing very, very well. But again, long season ahead, but they are very impressive this season, to be fair. And we'll move on to one of the underperformers, and that is Nottingham Forest. Not look good at all. They've had that one win at the beginning of the season, and that was it really. They had terrible in the other games, for the sort of the way they performed last season and the players they brought in, and even keeping Morgan Gibbs-White. Yeah, they've looked absolutely lackluster, to say the least. And Al, do you want to get the Forest side started?
Yeah, I think it's quite clear to see where the problems lie at Nottingham Forest, or where the problems started really. We've said it on multiple videos and multiple times. It started with the owner really. Now I understand that the problems really lied between Nuno and the chairman, not necessarily the owner and Nuno. But obviously the owner does have a say in whether he leaves, gets sacked or not. And of course, I think he needs to put that ego aside, knowing, when making that kind of decision, considering Nuno done so much for the club, took them to Europe, Europa League. Like, are they ever going to get a manager that can do that for them again? I mean, obviously, Andrew's come in and it's been absolutely shocking. Which, to be fair, we shouldn't really be too surprised, considering that he'd had an awful season with Tottenham last season. Yes, he won them the Europa League, which is an absolute massive achievement for Tottenham. But, I mean, the league form was just despicable, really. And, of course, he's coming in, not necessarily mid-season, but it's not his players. He hasn't had a pre-season. He hasn't had any time to bring in any players. Obviously, he's got the international break. That might be, a big thing for them. That might help them turn their season around, but I highly doubt it. And yeah, again, we've said it multiple times. It is really, really the owner that you can kind of have to blame here. Unfortunately, and it's really sad to see because they've got such a great team with great players. And look, I've said it again before as well, I'm happy that Nuno left because he's come to West Ham, and I'm happy that we've got him. But it's just sad to see for Forest because they were such a great team and an exciting team to watch, to be fair. So yeah, it's not ideal, and it's not nice to see, to be honest. But yeah, that's my opinion on the whole thing with Nottingham Forest this season. What about you, Asen?
Yeah, I agree with what you said. I think the departure of Nuno is probably the main cause for their results right now. And we bring in someone like Ange Postecoglou, who's obviously won the Europa League with Tottenham, but that alone doesn't defy how good of a coach he is, because obviously I feel like Tottenham's run in the Europa League was quite easy compared to United. United, we beat one of the better sides in the Europa League, but the problem is obviously we just threw away in the final. We just let Spurs win it easily. So I think as well, when you look at it with context as well, you can't just say, oh, he won the Europa League, he's a great manager. You need to see the context, what teams they faced in the knockout phases in the Europa League and stuff, because I think Spurs probably had one of the easiest ones out of all the teams. It's just in the league, obviously they finished 17th, which is like woeful for Spurs standards. They're a team that's been consistently finishing the top half of the league, and for you to finish just like above the relegation battle, it's crazy. Like, it's unheard of, even United standards as well. But we didn't finish 17th, which is just not acceptable at all. And I think also Elanga going to Newcastle, that probably affected them a lot, because I think that he was a big player for them, in the attack especially. He was the main reason why Wood was performing really well. Created many chances for him, and obviously a lot of assists as well. So other things that tally on the manager, I think they didn't sign enough good players during the transfer window. And yeah, as I said, losing Elanga is always big, because he was playing really well for them, and he's not doing too bad at Newcastle now. So I think that's also another thing they have to look at as well. But yeah, that's my take. What about you, Carlos?
I've kind of got 2 points or 2 players I really want to talk about. Obviously, you guys talked about Ange Postecoglou, obviously not having a great start. We saw what he did at Tottenham, didn't do very well. But I think a player that they're really missing out on now is Murillo. He's probably their best centre-back. Obviously, the other centre-back, what was his name? Milenkovic? Is that his name? Milenkovic, yeah. He's a good player, but the partnership is what really got them where they were last season. Obviously, centre-back partnerships are so important. We've seen it like with Arsenal as well. Look at Gabriel and Saliba and how fantastic they work together. For me, they're the best centre-back partnership in the world. I think they just work well off each other. They're absolutely fantastic. And even look at Liverpool. I mean, Liverpool, they kind of get carried by Van Dijk, but when Konate was performing well, he was good. Obviously, back when they did really well, Matip too. But yeah, obviously Murillo, he accommodates for Milenkovic's pace. And it kind of reminds me of the Rio Ferdinand and Vidic kind of partnership. I'm not saying that because Milenkovic is from Serbia, but I just think that it really works well, because Milenkovic is really similar to Vidic's style of play. Like, he's a very aggressive centre-back who, puts his body on the line, where Murillo's more, he's quick, he's agile, he's good on the ball, and obviously he's got that bit of a Brazilian flair to him for a centre-back. So yeah, they've definitely missed out on that, and I think he's a major player on why they did well last season, do you know what I mean? The one player I do want to talk about who's doing very well this season is Elliot Anderson. Now, he's been great. Despite the team not doing well, I honestly see him as another player. Like, we talked about Semenyo in the last video. We've talked about loads of different players that are at the smaller clubs now. I see Elliot Anderson joining a big club. I saw rumours about him going back to Newcastle, and even rumours with Man United too. But I think maybe Newcastle might have some kind of like first refusal, or maybe even a release clause. I don't really know about the deal they have with Forest, but I could see him leaving as well, especially if Forest don't perform well. They got the Europa League they could maybe rely on, but I just don't think that's going to be enough. I don't think they'll do well enough, because I'm sure there are better teams than them in that competition. So that is the Forest side of things done. We'll move on to another overperformer, and that is Crystal Palace. Now, they were on a 19-game unbeaten run, and every single team on Twitter, when they lost it, just started a trend, updating their bios, I think I saw Dortmund, even like now, because obviously everybody's doing it, they're like, we got to stop this trend, and they updated that in their bio. So, Palace were on great form. Obviously, they lost to Everton. Everton are a good team too, and to be fair, they're one of the overperformers, but we decided to go with Palace and another team we'll talk about later. Al, what do you think about Palace's season so far?
We said overperformers, they're having an amazing season, especially for their standards. To be honest, it's like with each transfer window, they've lost like a key player. Of course, they lost Elise, then they lost Eze. Nearly lost Gahey, which would have probably derailed their season, if I'm being honest. But luckily for them, they managed to keep him. Managed to keep Wharton as well, who's another key player for them that we've talked about. And they're playing good football. They're playing, they're being even the big teams like Liverpool. And they're just having a great season overall. Obviously, there's still a bit of worries, because obviously Glasner did threaten to leave the club if Gahey left, which again, that probably could have completely changed the course of what their season could have been like. But luckily, again, for them and the fans, that didn't happen. And I hope it can continue for them. Obviously, they did have a long unbeaten streak, but of course that always has to come to an end. And players, to be fair, I think underrated players at that club at the moment, it has to be Sarr. For me, I think he. I know we talk about War and we talk about Gahey and even Mateta, but for me, I think Sarr is probably one of their great players going forward. He's had some good performances already this season, and I mean, I think we already saw it when he was at Watford. To be fair, that he could do it. Obviously, he had some great performances. I think even against Liverpool when they beat their it would stop their unbeaten run in that one season when they won the league. Was it? Did they win the league? I can't even remember. But they had that long
They did, yeah.
unbeaten run. Yeah, exactly. When they in COVID. So you know what I mean. We already knew he had potential to be a great player, and he's kind of showing that at Crystal Palace at the moment. And I think he doesn't get enough credit, to be fair, at the moment, because they have players like Gahey and Wharton and Mateta. But I think he deserves his flowers, and that's why I'm giving him his flowers now. And yeah, I think they're just performing really well, playing good football, and they're towards the top of the league, which is what you want to see, innit? And to be fair, the season's just been crazy, really. Yeah, but anyway, it's nice to see, and yeah, that's what my thoughts are on Crystal Palace this season.
Yeah, I agree with what Ali's mostly said, to be fair. But one player I also really rate is Daniel Munoz. I think he's played really well on the right-hand side. He joins the attack, also gets a lot of goal contributions and assists as well. As a right wing-back, he's a very good player. Yeah, just all-round very good player. I think Crystal Palace in general got a very nice set of quality players in there. Even the goalkeeper Henderson, he once played for United. He's made very good stops for Crystal Palace over the last few games. Probably kept them in certain games, but I think obviously the last game against Everton is probably not the best result for them. I think in the first half, I think Everton just played better, but I think second half they started playing a bit better, Crystal Palace. But yeah, it's unfortunate for them. Obviously the unbeaten streak is now broken. But I think during that 19-game streak, they played well for the most part of it. And I think even in the loss, they were still a good team. I think Everton obviously deserved it with the last-minute goal, but I still think that Crystal Palace, don't have anything to worry about. They're still a very good side, and they're a side that won 2 trophies from last season. So that's obviously something they can be really proud of, and they got to just keep building on from what they have, since last season. And if they keep doing that, then they could definitely get European football, which is definitely possible for them. I mean, they are 6th place right now, so that's basically Conference League spot right there. So if they keep it up, they could definitely get Europa League, possibly even Champions League if they do really well. But I think it'll be difficult for them to get a Champions League spot just because of maybe the team depth is not as good as other clubs. So I think if they do get injuries down the line, it's going to be very hard for them to stay at the top. So I think obviously we need to give it more time. We need to see how most teams do. But I think Crystal Palace, our team, will definitely be in the top half of the table, close to top 6. So yeah, just curious to see how they will do in the future. What about you, Carlos? What do you think?
For me, they've built a strong defense, and that is, I think it was it Fergie or somebody, a quote in football, attack wins you games, defense wins you titles, and I'm 90% sure that was Fergie.
I think so. Yeah.
I might be wrong. I think it was Fergie. Yeah, and obviously that is correct. They have won titles because of a strong defence. They won the FA Cup, they won the Community Shield. Relative to Crystal Palace's standards, they'd never won a major trophy before the FA Cup. So, that was great for them, and they've not really looked back since winning it. They've been absolutely on fire in terms of, like I said, Dean Henderson was great in that FA Cup final, saved a penalty. These moments in games really do make a difference for clubs in the long run, and even in that game, obviously. We talk about, Alex was talking about Gahey, and obviously how much of an important player he is. LaCroix, Chris Richards, Munoz, and even Tyreek Mitchell. He's a very good left wing back too. Obviously, they are playing the 5 at the back system, which some people say doesn't work, but clearly they're showing it does. Yeah, I do want to talk about also Pino. I did talk about him when they signed him. He hasn't done exceptionally well, but I just think that he's a player that will take time to embed, and he's at a club that are doing so well. So I think he will get that time to sort of be fed into the team, and I think that in the long run he'll be a very good signing because he's got loads of potential and he's still very, very young. Yeah, and I think that's great for Crystal Palace to have a young player like that at the club. But we'll move on to the next club, and another underperformer, and it's Al's beloved West Ham United. I think there is no better place to go than to Al. Al, let your heart out, mate.
Yeah, look, it's really disappointing so far this season. Of course, the preseason probably sold me dreams, if I'm being honest. Now, I wasn't going to expect, for us to have like some, crazy season where we got Europe or anything like that, but I just was hoping for some improvement on last season. Obviously, we finished close to the relegation zone, and that was not ideal. And I just thought, surely can't get worse than this. Well, than that. And at the moment, luckily, we have brought in Nuno. We have an international break. Hopefully, he can turn it around. Of course, he only had 2 games so far. Got a draw against Everton, and was it obviously lost to Arsenal? But it's Arsenal, so we were all expecting them to lose against Arsenal. So you can't really be quite annoyed at that. For example, to be fair, and look at where the issues are at the club at the moment. Of course, I mentioned it in the last video with the defence, and a lot of people, quite a few people in the comments came to the defence of Mavropanos. And look, fair enough, maybe I was a bit too harsh in that video with him. But what I'll say is, a lot of people are trying to accept that, his level of defending so far this season has been pretty good. And yeah, maybe it has been compared to especially last season. But what we got to understand is we can't accept that level of defending to be what our standard should be this season, if you know what I mean. Because if we accept that level of defending, we are probably going to get relegated. It's not only him. I've said it as well. Kilman, he's not been any better. He's been awful. Quite frankly, I'd love to see both of them get replaced in the January transfer window. Whether ownership decides to, get some money, give some money to the manager to spend, or like to the, get some money spent. You know what I mean, on the team. Highly doubt it, to be fair. But we are desperate for new defenders, to be honest. Look, we have had some redeeming qualities in the team, such as Malik Diouf. He's come in and he's hit the ground running, really. I think personally, like a lot of people have given him a lot of praise, even from rival teams, saying that he's probably one of the best left backs in the league at the moment. And it's sad to see, considering he's playing in such a team that's underperforming. You know what I mean? But like I've said, the ownership is a real big problem, similar to Nottingham Forest, and truly could be the reason we could get relegated. It's happened to us before where we've had a great team and got relegated in the past. Obviously, we had players like DeCanio and Joe Cole in that team, and just a crazy team, probably one of the best teams to get relegated, to be fair. And it just worries me because it could easily happen again this season. I pray it doesn't, but I think if they don't invest in centre backs in the January transfer window, and to be honest, it's not even just the defence, but bro, I don't know what it is with the ownership deciding to keep signing pensioners in striker. Now, I love Fulkrug, but Jesus Christ, like what is it with these old guys we're signing? Like, come on. You know what I mean? Like, I'll give it to them. They've tried with Evan Ferguson, didn't work out. Tried with Skamaka, unfortunately, didn't work out with him and Moyes, which, was really sad to see because Skamaka, I think, was a great player, to be fair. But, again, I think there needs to be a lot of investment for Nuno in the January transfer window. And I've heard some rumours about Endrick coming. Bring some Brazilian fare. If that happens, oh my God, I'll be very happy. But obviously, we have to wait and see. But yeah, I could ramble on for hours, to be fair, but we want to keep this video a bit short, so I'll just stop there.
What I want to say about West Ham, there's a lot to say, to be fair. I think with Potter, I think for pre-season you can tell that West Ham were not going to be as bad as they are now. It was quite hard to judge from just from pre-season to see if they're going to do well or not. But I think Potter's done some shocking decisions. When he was here at the beginning of the season, like starting Ward-Prowse and Souček in midfield probably cost him his job because the midfield was getting overrun for West Ham. Putting 2 players that are not playing the right positions who are also a bit getting on with age as well. they're just gonna be run over by every team in the Premier League. Like even the likes of United, we don't have the best midfield ever, but even our midfield will easily beat West Ham's if you play Souček or Prowse as the two number sixes. So yeah, it was very rough for West Ham in a lot of games because they just couldn't get hold of the midfield, and he had the likes of Magassa on the bench. You know, like I mean, it's good to see that Nuno's now start to appreciate Magassa and started him in games now, because you can tell he's a good player and he's been actually doing pretty well for West Ham as of late. But obviously, it's not good enough. They need to do better. But I think of Nuno, he's still coming. You need to give him more time to, just coach the players and play a different system. Because Potter's system was not working out for them, and yeah, he needs to just make them forget what they were taught last season and just focus on this season and play a not best style of football, I'd say, but just a style of football that would get them more wins. Yeah, it's just not been great. Even the likes of Bowen, he's been on and off this season. You can't put the blame on him, to be fair, because like a lot of teams have this where they rely on one player to do everything. Like Man City rely on Haaland, Man United rely on Bruno. So if those players are not performing, then the whole team doesn't play well and they don't get results. So I feel like the team collectively needs to do better. And yeah, in regards to West Ham's defense, I think Juve is a very good player. I think defensively he's not the best, but I think attacking wise he provides a lot. His crossing is very good as well. But I think that's not what he's not there to make nice, like good tackles or be physical, whatever. He's more of just a high intensity player who's like willing to break on the counter. And also Wan-Bissaka needs to be talked about as well, because he was West Ham's best player of the season last season. So his fall off has been pretty big. He's been not marking well at the back post. He's been defensively very, very clumsy. Not been in the game. Like Wan-Bissaka last season, he was very good in attack. Defensively, made very nice tackles as well. So it's just sad to see him not do well for West Ham, because he was doing really well for them last season. And in regards to Kilman and Mavropanos, yeah, I think Mavropanos is not as bad as what Ali initially said about him. But obviously, if West Ham want to go to the next level, they want to sign better quality players. So I completely understand when it comes to that conversation. I do think the attack is good though for West Ham. I think it's an attack that can get goals. Maybe the striker problem is not ideal, but I still think they could get goals. I think they do have enough firepower to score goals. But it's just a matter of the team mentality. If the team could start having a better mentality than they did at the start of the season, then I think they could start getting results. And yeah, and January transfer window is going to be very important for them. I think if they sign the right players, then they can start getting good results. And yeah, that's what I think. What about you, Carlos?
For me, we were just talking about Crystal Palace and how strong their defense is. Let's talk about how defensively crap West Ham are. Pardon the language, but yeah, it's true, because look at the goalkeeper. That goalkeeper situation, listen, Hansen has come in and, it's just, why have you bought that player when you have Areola? They brought back Fabianski too. It's like they've basically made no change to the goalkeeping position except add Hansen. And then starting Hansen, obviously, he made a number of mistakes in the opening games. What was that, Al?
It's Hermansen, not Hansen.
Hermansen.
Oh.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
My bad.
No, I just give some. Don't want to be too.
Hansen, yeah, sorry. I don't know why I said Hansen. I've been thinking about FIFA a lot. Sorry, yeah, Hansen, yeah.
Nah, to be fair, look. To be fair, I said I don't want to interrupt, but like I did say to Carlos as well, why were we prioritising the goalkeeper position, considering that the midfield was so poor, and that it was like we had only Jane Ward-Prowse and Souček. So I did say it multiple times that we should not be prioritising the goalkeeper, but for some reason Potter wanted to do that and kind of lost him his job in the end, really. So yeah, but carry on, Carl. Sorry about that.
Sorry, yeah. Hermansen, yeah. Okay, yeah. He made multiple different mistakes. In the Chelsea game, he had a bit of a stinker. Sunderland. Listen, being a new goalkeeper coming in in an unstable defence is not easy at all. So that's why it was a bit stupid to just chuck him in the deep end. Do you see how, to be fair, we chat about Ruben Amorim, but he brought in Lemens at the right time, probably. Gave him a little bit of time to embed. But anyway, I think that Areola should have been the goalkeeper, but obviously decided to go with Hermansen. I think Areola did start the last game, though. Am I right in saying that?
He started, I think, the last two games.
There we are. Since Nuno's come in, there we go. So, yeah, I think it's more like he wants to stick with something that he probably knows or like is consistent at the club. And then you look at, like you say about the centre backs, crap, simple as that. Like the partnership itself is not good. Like you can probably have one of those centre backs alongside a better centre back, but having those two as a partnership just doesn't work at all. Like, I mean, on paper, if you had, these style of players together, it could work, but it's just not working at all. Like you said, Kilman's kind of a ball playing centre back. That's not been really what he's about. He's just been sort of seen as like a slow, lethargic centre back who just can be run at easily. And to be fair, like you said, Mavropanos has like been decent this season, but I remember the amount of times Al would tell me last season that he should go like straight on, like terminate his contract, the way he said in the last video. Yeah, it's not a good centre back partnership to build a team on, and then obviously when you have a new goalkeeper in goal as well, alongside Wan-Bissaka, who was never good at marking the back post. Obviously, 1v1, we know how good he is, but marking the back post and almost every other side of the defensive game, he's not very good. Going forward, he's not bad, to be fair now. Same with Diouf, good player, but defensively, I could have sworn he was a left winger before you signed him, if I'm not mistaken, something like that, or was he playing left wing?
Maybe he was like a left wing back position. I don't know, but like
maybe
he was on the left side. He was definitely on the left side.
But for me, you need major investment in your defense. I think even your midfield now 100%. Is looking decent. Did Magassa start the last game?
He did.
Yeah, I think he started the last couple of games.
Well, there you go. Yeah, so
he's starting to build a bit. I think. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a bit of momentum building with your midfield. I just think that the defense is the reason why you've not performed at all. Like I said, comparing it to the likes of Palace, who have built their name on a strong defense. Yeah. It's the opposite with West Ham. They've built their name on a crap defense. So that's pretty much it.
Yeah, can I just add one thing about the defense as well? It's kind of sad to see that we got to Debo, and he was an exciting prospect and everything, and hopefully under Nuno maybe he can come back into the team and start to perform really well, because we are really desperate for a good centre back, at least one. And maybe if he comes in and forms a partnership with either the centre backs, it could change the defence if he doesn't get maybe the investment he wants in January. But yeah, I wish to see him come in, because he was a highly sought after player. Obviously Man United wanted him, but because of the whole ownership thing, they weren't able to get him. So I'd love to see him come in and just do well, because I think he's really good at taking the ball from the defense and bringing it up the pitch. But yeah, nah. If he doesn't work out either, then to be fair, it's going to be a long season.
Yeah, I think we've summed up the West Ham side of things well. Obviously, we expect them, as the way they performed the last couple seasons. I think, including Declan Rice's last season, and even the Europa League campaign after that, we expected them to do so much better. But obviously, they've fallen off a cliff, and it's quite sad to see. Move on to another overperformer, and probably the overperformer of the season, in Bournemouth. Now, I believe they are sat in 4th place, which is obviously Champions League positions. Again, only 7 games in, but we don't know if they're going to finish there. Maybe they can. Listen, with this league, we don't know what can happen. It gives me the kind of vibe of a Leicester season. I'm not saying Bournemouth are going to win the league, but I'm just saying that I think it's sort of anybody's title, if that makes sense. With the way Liverpool have been playing the last couple of games. And to be fair, Man City's still not looking very convincing just yet, reliance on Haaland. I think a team like Bournemouth can, come in and if they can build up a bit of consistency, could maybe potentially a little title charge, you know what I mean? But yeah, I think they're a great team. But what do you guys think?
Yeah, I'd love to see them go for a title charge. It'd be great to see, because we're always seeing the same teams every season getting the title, fighting for the title. We're hardly getting many title fights, if I'm being honest. It's just been, for the last 3 seasons, Arsenal bottling it. And then the other seasons is just a clear winner. So it'd be nice to see these kind of teams like Crystal Palace and Bournemouth kind of fighting these big teams for the title. But I think something that we really haven't mentioned with these, I'm not going to call them smaller teams because that'd be disrespectful, but like teams that maybe, seen as maybe mid-table. The problem they have, unfortunately, is probably the lack of depth that I think, to be fair, Hassan did mention before. That's kind of the only thing that's kind of restraining them from possibly performing even better towards the end of the season. Look, a lot of these teams kind of rely on a few players to carry them through games. And if they get injuries, you know what I mean, that can completely derail their season. That's the kind of problem these teams have. And, it's harder for them to be able to get the depth, especially with the quality in depth, you know what I mean? They're not able to spend like the big clubs like Man United and Liverpool and Chelsea because of PSR, and, they're not bringing in the revenue like these big teams. And to be fair, that's something I don't think we've talked about enough. I think this is a big problem in the Premier League. We've seen it with Villa and Newcastle. I feel like they've gone so close to maybe establishing themselves in the big six. Yeah, I feel like that PSR and this whole thing is kind of stopping them from being able to establish themselves in the top six or the big six because of that, because they aren't able to spend. Obviously, Villa could hardly spend this summer, and it's kind of showed with the start of the season they had. And yeah, but no, going back to Bournemouth, because that's what we're trying to talk about right now. Obviously, we talked about Semenyo before. Obviously, in the last video, I made a mistake calling him a fullback. Apologies on that one. I don't know where I got that from. But look, he's obviously been their best player by a country mile this season and even parts of last season. But not only just to give him credit, Truffer, the defender that's coming to replace Kirkez, has done great for them. Clivert, looking like his dad, to be fair, for Bournemouth, at the moment, just performing really well, scoring a bang against Fulham. And yeah, no, they're just performing really well. Again, similar to Crystal Palace, playing really good football, football that's enjoyable to watch. I'm sure the fans are loving it. And again, like, this is what we want to see. It's nice to see these kind of teams kind of throwing a spanner into the works for these bigger teams. And yeah, hopefully it can keep continuing. I think, to be fair, with their home form, that's where they really shine. And Bournemouth are a great team. Clivert, Semenyo, Truffer. Yeah, they just got some really good players, to be fair to them. And Bournemouth are doing really good. Hopefully it can continue. And yeah.
I agree with what Ali said about Bournemouth. I think overall, very quality side. The style of football is really nice as well. The manager as well, the way he implements football, the way his style of football is really nice. Especially with these players, like obviously they're good players, but I think overall when you compare them to the likes of the big six, obviously the potential of those players and Bournemouth's players are not the same. Obviously the big six, you'd expect a bit more quality, a bit more talent, but I think the way that Raiola's drilled his team is very good. So he gets the most out of his players. And they've had very good results, especially against Tottenham away. They beat them 1-0. So yeah, that's a great result for them. And ever since then, they've been performing pretty well, to be fair. So yeah, not really much to say other than the fact that they've been overperformed for sure. Like for a team who's obviously doesn't have as much spending as the bigger teams, it is very impressive what they're doing. And I think that's made down to the manager. I think managers do play a big role in a lot of the games. Obviously, they're there to calm the team down when obviously things don't go their way. But obviously, he drills them in the training sessions, make sure that they're doing the right stuff and playing to the best of their abilities. And Raiola is definitely a manager that's sought after by many clubs. I think he's one of the options that Man United have if it does work out with Amrim. So it just goes to show how much of a good quality manager he is. And it's really really good to see how he's built the club from the bottom to the top. So if they carry on playing well, they can definitely get Champions League football if they stay fourth. But I think it'll be difficult, as Ali said, because they do have a lot of star players like Semenyo, for example. I think if he gets injured, then that's when that can really turn things around for Bournemouth in not a good way. So I think if he stays fit and obviously continues playing well, then there's a chance that they will stay up and get European football. But I think it relies on many factors, and you can't really tell this early on in the season. So I say, give it a bit more time, but for what they're doing now is very impressive, and yeah, credit to them. What about you, Khalis? What do you think?
For me, they just have a very good, well-rounded squad. No massive names, nothing really crazy. I mean, Semenyo's building his name, but again, like even from last season, he was a good player, but he's taken it on leaps and bounds this season. A player who's very underrated for them is Alex Scott. He came in from Bristol City, and he's been seen as like one of those potential players. And this season, I think he started every game for Bournemouth, if I'm not mistaken. And he's looked great. He even got a goal. Playing in the deeper role, he's kind of known for being an attacking midfielder, but he's playing in the deeper role right now, and he's looked very good. And I think that another underrated player for Bournemouth, who I think. You see, the thing is with a team like Bournemouth, Brighton, Palace as well. These guys, they create players. They buy players from smaller clubs, lower divisions, from different countries, from all these places, get them embedded into the Premier League, and then they're able to sell them off for a very high price. Look what they did with Huijsen, Kirkes, and yeah, multiple other players. Yeah, him. I don't know how to pronounce his name. That's a thing for me. But yeah, no, listen, they're a great team, and I think that again, I think Semenyo will be one of those players. If I'm honest, I'm actually not sure. I'm gonna just double check Kluivert's age. I'm pretty sure he's not the youngest. 26, to be fair. They could probably get a very good fee for him. To be fair, that is pretty young. That's what I'm saying. I thought he was like 28, 29.
They want to keep these players. You know what I mean?
They probably would, but what I'm saying is if I think. This is the issue with these teams. Like, let's say Brighton, the amount of great players they've had. Look at Cucurella, obviously gone to Chelsea.
Caicedo.
I was going to say Enzo Fernandez. Yeah, Caicedo. I mean, to be fair, even Robert Sanchez, even though he's not great, but you know what I mean. Multiple other players too. McAllister. All these players, yeah, they're very good, but when the big clubs come calling, it's kind of hard for those players to say no to them as well. I think Brighton and to be fair, Bournemouth as well, they're very good at making money. So they got very good fees for the players they sold over the last couple of years. And I think if they really want to succeed, they have to hold on to these players and sort of build a squad properly, especially if Bournemouth somehow get, Europe this season, which, kind of seems likely with the way they've been playing. Yeah, it's very exciting times for Bournemouth, and obviously their manager's really exciting, and that is another massive aspect to why they've done so well, because of the tactics and the way they play football, and it's very, very entertaining to watch Bournemouth play nowadays. So, hopefully they can push for Europe, and hopefully even maybe a title challenge. We'll have to wait and see what happens. But we'll move on to the last team, and to the bottom of the list of underperformers, Wolves. They have been absolutely terrible this season. I think they're on a decent cup run, if I'm not mistaken. They knocked out Everton, they knocked out West Ham, but they're playing Chelsea at home. I mean, if they somehow knock them out, mate, they might just be a cup team at this point. But in the league, yeah, very, very sad. Even in the last two games, I'm pretty sure they bottled both games very late on. Yeah, they did. But Brighton got a late equaliser. Tottenham got a late equaliser. So. Listen, it's just not looking good for Wolves. What do you guys think?
Yeah, look, I think the problems lie with what we kind of mentioned for the last couple of teams. This problem of trying to keep players, quality players. Of course, we mentioned before why their season's gone so wrong, considering that they've lost players like Cunha, Ryan Nori, Semedo. Semedo? Yeah. Look. This inability to keep such quality players for these clubs like Wolves or Bournemouth or Crystal Palace is why they can never establish themselves higher up in the league. This is why we have a big six, and it's never changed, because teams low in the league aren't able to establish themselves because they can't compete with these giants in terms of money. Carlos is right. When these big clubs come in for these kind of players, it's impossible to say no. Yeah, it's not even about the club, it's about the money as well. This is life-changing money for a lot of these players, you know what I mean? And at the end of the day, I think we forget how life-changing the money really can be for these players. Some of them are coming from the favelas, coming from poor places. The money is always going to talk to them. And it's fair enough. At the end of the day, it's not just entertainment, it's a job for them, you know what I mean? So you got to give them that. It's a job. Of course, they're going to want the highest salary they can get. wouldn't we all want the higher salary you can get at our jobs? You know what I mean? If someone offered us higher money at a different place, we would obviously accept it. That's how it works. So, look, you can't really blame them when they do take this higher money to go to different clubs. And obviously, Wolves have been a victim of this. They lost Cunha, they lost Ryan Aït-Nouri, lost Mado. It's really derailed them, clearly. Another problem, which isn't related to that, is probably signing on another contract like extension for the manager. Obviously, he did finish the season off well at the end last season, but obviously it hasn't gone to plan at the beginning of this one. And to be fair, even in the January transfer window, they do have some good players. But if they go on to lose players like Strand Larsen as well, they will definitely get relegated. And it's sad to see because they were European contenders before. Obviously, they were in Europa League before when they were under Nuno. But again, it goes back to this issue that I'm talking about with these clubs that aren't able to, compete with the bigger clubs and keep these players. They'll always hit a peak and never be able to maintain it. And that's the problem, unfortunately. The only club I'd say that has somewhat done that is probably Brighton. But that's just because of their ability, their amazing recruitment to be able to keep churning in these new talents and just be able to sell them on for such a great profit. But for teams like Bournemouth, Crystal Palace and Wolves, and like even West Ham, obviously we were in Europe for the last couple of seasons, like a few seasons ago, but we weren't able to maintain it. But I guess that's down to bad ownership. So that's what I say about Wolves. Just sad to see.
Yeah, no, I agree as well, to be fair. But I think it's quite difficult to put all the blame on the manager because obviously, as Ali's mentioned, they've lost a lot of good players and obviously that can really change a team's, season. But I think in regards to losing a lot of players, you have to sign, players in their place, and I don't think they've done that as well. So I know like losing Cunha and Aït-Nouri is big for them, but at least sign good replacements that, you think might, do not as good of a job as they might do because they're top class players, but at least sign players that you think can fill in their role and do a decent job. And I don't think they've done that. And obviously extending the contract of the manager, a bit of a risky move to do it this early on. Especially with the results that they've been having recently. A bit of a rash decision from them, and it's coming back to bite them back. I think now, obviously, when you try and terminate a manager's contract, now he's going to get a big payout. So obviously, it's like double jeopardy on top of that. So, and also who they want to bring in and which style of football they want to see the team playing, it's going to be hard, And obviously, they need to play the cards right and see which managers out there. But yeah, I think they need to just look at the options available because I think right now the best option is to look for a new manager. Whether they can afford that or not, we'll have to see. But it's just not looking great from Wolves' side of things. They haven't won any game, so obviously when you don't have a momentum to start with early on in the league, it's going to be very hard for them to do well. And I think if they can't, at least after the international break, they cannot get a win, it's going to be very difficult for them to, have a form of run because right now the big game draws and mainly losses. So and for Wolves, Wolves were never seen as obviously a top 6, top 10 team, but a team that stayed comfortable in the league, wasn't really in the relegation battle that much. But it's just sad to see, to be honest. And they just hope in the January transfer window they can bring in a player or two that can change the season. And in regards to change the manager, it's going to be very difficult for them. But if it is the right decision from what they think it is, then it could definitely help them with the season. But I think it's very rough for them, and they definitely need the win as soon as possible because. If they carry on like this, then I don't think they'll probably get relegated easily. But what about you, Khas? What do you think?
I mean, with Wolves, they did sign the replacements. That they tried to cover for Cunha and Ignori, but the problem is the quality of those two is so hard to replace. You can see, Cunha has come into Man United, and I wouldn't say he's done anything crazy. He hasn't, got a goal or an assist yet. But I would say the way he's playing is very vital for Manchester United. He's very good at carrying the ball, and he was really good at that at Wolves. And that they've missed that. They did sign Juan Arias. I think that's how you say his name, or Juan or John, or I don't know how you'd pronounce it, to be honest with you. They brought him in from Fluminense, and I think he did very well in the Club World Cup and very impressive. A good player, but obviously not embedding. Like I said, some of these players, it does take time. You never know. Again, it's really early on in the season. I know they haven't got a win yet, but with these type of players and the potential these guys bring in, it can be very good. They brought in a left back replacement for Ignorian. I think his name was Wolf, which is a bit ironic. Wolf signing for Wolves. I don't know why they signed him. He was good. He was another AZ Alkmaar, which that's where Kirkes came from to join Bournemouth. Again, you'd have to wait and see if he can do any good, but it's not obviously been good so far from Wolves' side. Not really any inspirational performances by any of their players, obviously. I mean, even the players they kind of relied on before. I mean, to be fair, Hwang Hee-chan, I haven't noticed him at all this season. Even Strand Larsen, not getting service as a striker. We see how difficult it is for some strikers. They don't get any service. It's not good for them. And I think if he gets an offer, he's going to snap it up straight away and leave. But on the Wolves side of things, I don't know what they're going to do. It's a very difficult situation that we're in. They've backed their manager. Can the manager pull a rabbit out the hat and, get something successful out of this season? I'm not too sure about that. I don't know, to be honest with you, about the Wolves side of things, but you're going to have to wish them luck, because they were a very entertaining team over the last couple of years, but yeah, I guess everything good comes to an end sometimes. And that is it. We have looked at 6 different clubs, under and overperformers, and, very interesting, and there are definitely more clubs as well, but I think these were the main 6 that were sort of pointing out at us. So yeah, not too bad. I think before we end the video, Al, do you want to go ahead and give us the quiz for the next player?
Yes. So let's start with the first fact. Before becoming a professional, he nearly quit football while working at a construction site in Brazil. His career revived only after a trial with Joinville. Second fact, he was one of only a few players from Brazil's 2010 World Cup squad who had never played in the Copa Libertadores at that point. The third fact, his Champions League semi-final goal at Camp Nou came from a pass by Frank Lampard and was scored while he was 1 yellow card away from suspension, meaning he missed the final despite being one of Chelsea's heroes. The fourth fact, during his time at Benfica, his tireless running earned him comparisons to another Brazilian midfielder nicknamed Blue Kenya, referring to his incredible stamina. And for the fifth and final fact, he finished his career back in Brazil with Palmeiras, where he won both the Copa Libertadores and Copa do Brasil before quietly retiring. Now let us know in the comments if you know who that is, and we'll obviously reveal him in the next episode.
Thank you guys for coming in. It's been a great pleasure. Please leave your comments down below to sort of make your points about your overperformers and underperformers, and whether you agree with us, and if there's a certain club you thought we should have talked about. We obviously love the interaction, and we obviously we do this stuff for the fans. Thank you very much for coming in. Please leave a like, subscribe, turn on your notifications so you don't miss any of our videos, and take care. See you guys.
See ya.
Yep.